Hello and welcome back to the offensive line. In the last video we talked about politics and the law, about how lots of Christians vote Republican, and in this video we want to keep talking about the law but in a slightly different way. The Christian cliche of the week is, Jesus kept the law, so we don't have to. Like many of our previous cliches, this one sounds vaguely biblical. It sounds like it comes straight out of the Bible, but we'll explain why it's anything but.
Also, like many of our previous cliches, this one centers around a particular verse. It takes what is said in this verse and then adds just a little bit more, and that verse is Romans 10:4. For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes. Now, before we move on in this video, we want to remind you guys to subscribe to our channel. If you want to be notified whenever we have a new video coming out, that is the best way.
Romans 10:4 says, for Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes. But notice that it doesn't stop at Christ is the end of the law. That would in fact be against what Jesus himself says in his most famous sermon, the Sermon on the Mount. He says, do not think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill. That's Matthew 5:17, by the way, if you want to look it up yourself.
What Jesus is saying here is that he came to fulfill the law. To fulfill something means to bring it to completion or to bring it to reality. And part of that Christian cliche seems to support that Jesus kept the law. This is something that the Bible can agree to. But that second part though, that's where it goes a little too far. Because look again at Matthew 5:17. Jesus says that he came to fulfill the law, and he also says that he did not come to abolish it.
Abolish means to bring something to its end. These two words, abolish and fulfill, are actually used to mean the opposite. You can see that by simply focusing in on that word but in the second part of the verse. So if abolishing means to bring something to an end, and Jesus was not here to do that, that means the saying Jesus kept the law so we don't have to is false. In the very next verse, he also says, for truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or stroke shall pass from the law until all is accomplished.
Until heaven and earth pass away, nothing will be removed from the law. But we go on. Matthew 5:19 then says, whoever then annuls one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven, but whoever keeps and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So for anyone to teach that we don't have to keep the law means that they will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. That's not a good thing.
So the next time you hear anyone saying something like this, stop them and correct them before they go too far. Show them why they're wrong to say that we don't have to keep the law. You can do it simply by showing them these verses. And because we know that the Bible does not contradict itself, that means the verse this Christian cliche is rooted in is not actually saying that Jesus kept the law so that we don't have to.
Well, just put that verse on the screen for you guys to see again. Notice how it doesn't say that Christ is the end of the law and that's it. There are a few more words after for Christ is the end of the law. It says that Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to anyone who believes. To really understand what's going on, we can look at the context of what Paul is saying in Romans 10. He had just finished talking to his fellow Jews who were trying to establish their own righteousness through the law.
A lot could be said about Judaism. And if you want to know more, you can watch our video about Judaism that we'll link up above. But simply put, many Jews back then believed that they could achieve righteousness before God by keeping the law. So with this context in mind, we can understand that this verse is actually saying that because of Christ, we no longer have to try to achieve righteousness by keeping the law. It's not saying that because of Christ, we no longer need to keep the laws.
Christ is the end of works-based righteousness and the beginning of righteousness by grace through faith. That is what it means that Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes. That's also what Christians mean when they say that we are no longer under the law, but under grace. Hopefully that makes sense. Feel free to leave us a comment down below if it doesn't.
You can also let us know if this video was helpful to you or not. Please share it with friends and family that you think might benefit from it. As always, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We would also appreciate any ideas for future videos we could do. Any Christian saying or habits you're curious about? Any verses you've heard taken out of context that we can talk about? Send them our way and we'll try to do a video. We are the offensive line and we're uncomplicating the complicated. We'll see you next week. The verse, this Christian cliche is not saying that, what?
Sorry, that was bad. I forgot a word. Wait, can I see it again?
Connecting the dots
Can I see it again?